Welcome to your favorite podcast, The World of Translation. As every week, we will be talking about the different books and authors of translation. In today's podcast, we will talk about the book Fundamentals of Translation by Sonia Colina, specifically about Unit 5. The guests that join me today have been highly desired by the community that follow us. They have been recommended a lot, and today we can talk with them about one of the books that our community has asked us to talk about the most. First, the University Translation Professor Dahiana Perez, and we also joined by Ariely Ramos, an outstanding translator with years of experience. Welcome, girls.
Thank you so much, Camille, for the invitation. It is a pleasure to talk about my knowledge in translation for our listener, but especially the concepts related to translation developed in the book written by the author Sonia Colina.
Right. Thank you very much. It's more that an honor to be able to share my perspective as a translator. I am very excited to be able to give my point of view of this book, but especially in chapter number 5, which is the fact one of the chapter that has caught my attention as a translator.
In the previous podcast, we were talking about Unit 4, Name, Test, and Translation. And we mentioned some key concepts, for example, what is a test, which the author defines as a fragment of written language that conveys meaning. You can write a sentence, a paragraph, or a longer explanation.
That's right. In fact, translators study tests to find out how they are organized, what they mean, and to whom they are addressed.
On the other hand, we were talking about effective tests. These type of tests are neither coherent nor complete. Parallel tests, which are existing translation of the same original test. Also, referential distance, in which it's important to understand and maintain the relationship of both tests to ensure that the translate test makes sense and retains the meaning of the original.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, translators have a hard time when they are dealing with texts that don't make sense.
And to conclude Unit 4, we covered the difference between cohesion and coherence. Coherence is the objective of the purpose that the text wants to convey or achieve in the reader, and cohesion is about maintaining clear connections between sentences and ideas so that the translate text reads naturally and makes sense. Now, let's get back to what we came for. Let's talk about Unit 5, reading and translation. Let's start with the basics. Can you explain what the bottom model of reading comprehension consists of?
Right. The bottom-up model is linear process in which reading decodes each element to compute the meaning of the text. Study from the smaller units, for example, letters and words.
It's like building a house from the beginning, starting from the base and adding levels.
Exactly, Camille. Readers using the bottom-up model rely heavily in their ability to decode and recognize the words and structures.
Now, how does the top-down model differ from this?
So the top-down model is different. It refers to the prior experience and expectation for understanding the text. Instead of focusing on single words or letters, the readers look first at the overall meaning and context.
Actually, This one is more about using what you already know to understand new information.
It seems that both models have their strengths. Is there a preferred approach or do they complement each other? Do they complement each other?
That's an instancy questions, Camille. Um, Reading comprehension usually take a lot of practice. Both models are combined. It's what's called the interactive model. That's an instant questions, Camille. Reading comprehensions usually take a lot of practice. Both models are combined. It's what's called the interactive model. Both bottom-up and top-down ways to comprehend text.
That's right, as Ariely say. They try to find a balance between the two approaches.
Diana, could you explain what background knowledge and schema refer to?
Of course, why not? So the information and experience that the reader brings to the text are known as the background knowledge. It can be knowledge of word issues, languages, and even cultural context. The mental structure that helps to organize and interpret this information is what we call a schema.
Actually, as a clear example of that, uh, we don't start from scratch when we read. To understand and interpret the text, we use our prior knowledge. This is especially crucial in the top-down model, where readers rely on their expectations and prior knowledge to understand what they read.
How the background knowledge and the schema influence reading comprehension?
They play an essential role with well-developed background knowledge and schema. Reading can more easily make connections, informations, and fill in gaps in the text. This makes reading more effective and efficient.
And for example, if you're reading a text on a scientific topics that you already know, your prior knowledge help you to understand complex terms and concepts in a quicker way.
Let's discuss semantic model now. How do they fit into the scenario?
So the semantic model helps to break down complex terms. And when we are making a translation, when we are translating, we take these features into account. It is like understanding the origin of the word.
Can you give us an example of the semantic model?
I can sure. For example, I'm sure like child in English will be made up to the components human, young, and male. So semantic model improve our understanding by focusing on the relationships between words and their meanings.
Let's talk about reading for translation purpose. How is different from general reading?
So reading for translation purpose involve a more analytical and detailed approach compared to the general reader. So translation must understand the text, but not only understand the text, they should include in its structure, its style, and also cultural references.
Yes, also, as translator, we must identify possible problems and confusion that may affect the translation.
In other words, we could say it's about being meticulous and attentive to every detail.
Exactly. Translator must be meticulous in their reading to make sure we capture all the meanings and nuance of the original text.
And finally, we can say that these concepts demonstrate that translation is a nuanced process that recurs about linguistic analysis and cultural understanding. The translators use bottom-up and bottom-down processing, draw on prior knowledge and schemas, use semantic models, and explore interactive understanding to accurately translate meaning from one language to another. These methods ensure that translations are not only linguistically accurate, but also culturally accurate, supporting effective communication in diverse linguistic and cultural environments.
That's right, Camille. That's what we've been
Any
talking
advice?
about.
Any advice for our listening community?
Yes, to this beautiful community, uh, as a translation teacher, the most valuable advice that I can offer is that read books in both languages to improve your writing and also your reading skills.
Also, as a translator, my advice to this beautiful community that listen to us is, as a translator, you must overcome the culture barrier between two countries. Learn about customs, values, and cultural nuances.
Well, girls, thank you very much, Diana, really, for the opportunity to be here and share your knowledge.
Thanks to you, Camille, for the invitation. But most of all, that's thanks to your followers for having us here to discuss this interest topic, this amazing and deep topics about translation process.
Thank you to you and your community too. It will always a pleasure for me to attend and to talk about my knowledge of this chapter number 5.
And that brings us to the end of our today podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did record it. See you next time. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. We thank you for joining us for this episode. See you next week.